Welcome everybody to the South Brunswick Township Board of Education. We'll do a call to order and salute to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The New Jersey Open Public Meeting Act was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the Board Secretary, David Pulowski being me, has caused notice of this meeting, including date, time, and location, to be posted in South Brunswick Public Library and the Board office, filed with the Township Clerk, and communicated with the Home News Tribune and the Star Ledger. With a roll call vote, Mrs. Deepa Karthik. Mr. Raja Krishna.
Present.
Mr. Ray Keener.
Here.
Mr. Mike Mitchell. Dr. Smitha Raj.
Here.
Mrs. Lisa Rogers.
Here.
Mr. Joseph Scaletti.
Here.
Mr. Barry Nathanson. Mrs. Joyce Mehta. We have a quorum. Could I get a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion.
Motion made by Rogers. Second by Raja. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Approval of the minutes. Could I get a motion for the approval of the minutes?
Make a motion.
Got a motion, Mr. Keener? Second, Mr. Scaletti. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Turn it over to Mr. Fetter for a report of the superintendent.
All right, I'm going first because our student rep was unable to be here tonight, along with, it looks like a bunch of people were unable to be here tonight. But let's see what happens. They might stroll in shortly. Hopefully they will. So yesterday was an important day. It was National School Nurses Day. And if anyone in the universe needs some kudos, it's school nurses. And our school nurses are phenomenal. I have the pleasure of working pretty closely with them over the last 2 years, and I can only say they are dedicated, incredible individuals who just get it done. And I will give a request of our community, if at all possible. Please be patient with our nurses. They are delivering messages that not everyone likes. For example, there was a family today who thought it was absolutely okay to send in their children with positive COVID, and then get upset when they're told that your child needs to go home. In fact, all of your children need to go home. And that, what do you want the nurse to do? So our nurses have endured through these challenges of difficult situations, of having to deliver news that people don't want to hear for the last 2 years, and I think it's important that we acknowledge them tonight and give them our kudos and thanks for doing an amazing job and leading us in these very difficult times on the medical side. They are our go-to people, and they're always there. So you should know that about our team. It's an amazing, wonderful team. Have some new people on the team, and they've stepped right in as well. So kudos to our nurses, and just can't say enough. But as I stay on medical, you know how we talk about the document where we were red, orange, yellow, and green? We haven't done this in a while, but virtually the entire state is now back to orange, which is the second from the highest. It's high. It's delivered as high. But I want to remind you about these numbers. The numbers stretch for South Brunswick include Union County, Middlesex County, Monmouth County, and Ocean County. Those are the groups that make up our Central East region. And as a result of that, we're orange. And we don't have to do anything, but we're just going to be more vigilant. And we're not masking up everybody. We're still going to go with masking when it's needed. I keep using the term scalpel over a cleaver. If we see a need, we mask groups of people to manage that. We are not in the current situation where we're masking the whole district. However, there could be events. That families will be asked to mask for certain events. We call them smush events, lack of a better term, but they are events where it's hard to do any kind of distancing, but we're still having the programs in person. So just know and understand that that's where we are. If things change, we'll keep the community abreast of everything, but as of right now, some decisions could be made to limit things. We might be limiting participation in certain events, but we're not looking to cancel, and we're not looking to move everything to virtual at this moment. We're just not at that place yet here. There were 14 cases today for a school district with about 9,500 humans. That isn't that concerning when you have that. If it comes in the way of a cluster of a small class or we'll if we have to close a class, but we're not really closing classes at this time, we mask up, we keep kids home, we ask parents to test. We have thousands of tests available. We offer them to families to test in advance of sending kids back to school. We're doing the mitigation, but our mitigation we are not doing right now is full-blown masking or full-blown virtual. The rules for virtual instruction are still the same. If a parent chooses to keep a child home out of any reason other than they are COVID-related, wanting to keep a child home does not warrant a link to instruction that day. That we're not changing that. So if a parent just says, I'm nervous, I get that. I'm not going to argue that, but we're not going to be offering that. We're not offering the option to be virtual. That's just not in the cards right now. Again, if things change, I'll let you know. The next time we do a presentation is, I think, I think it's the next meeting. We do our LEA presentation on COVID, and I'll be able to give you everything. But that news about being orange came out today, so that's kind of where we are. Again, no real major changes at this time other than being more vigilant. We could ask families to be more vigilant. Please don't send kids to school when they have COVID. I can't believe I have to even say those words out loud. That's insane to me, to be honest. And we don't really have much patience. I will be honest, we don't have much patience for that. And so forgive us in advance if we lose our patience with a family that knowingly sends children to school with positive COVID because they don't believe in COVID. Don't really care what you believe. This is the way we have to operate the schools. So we deal with it, and I do give credit to our nurses and our principals for keeping it together in these challenging situations that we keep getting hit with. But for the most part, high 90% of our families are wonderful, are careful, are caring, supportive, and do everything they can to protect their own kids and other kids. So that has to be said, because that is the vast, vast, vast majority of this community. I'm not going to let a few of the, I'll use Governor Murphy's term, knuckleheads, cause us to really adjust and do things that would be more massive for kids. We want learning to be the focus still, and social emotional for our kids and our staff. Another important week, the week of May 8th through 14th that we are in, is Special Education Week, and we celebrate and recognize all the work of our special education professionals, and they are also tremendous, doing amazing things with challenging situations, and they've been doing it longer than everybody, because if you remember, they were the first ones back. They were the first ones in. They were running programs when the rest of the district was closed, not in person. So another great section of this wonderful district. On your agenda tonight, you are being asked to make it official that schools will be closed on Friday, May 27th. Just to remind everybody, this is a built-in snow day that was never used. When we built those in, if we never used them, we had no snow days this year. And as a result, we get that day back, just like we had the Monday after spring break was also given back. So this is the second day given back. You're being asked to just approve the idea that it's done. Like the agenda is already on there. You already approved this to occur, but it's a perfunctory task tonight just to approve that is now happening because the day was never used. So that's happening there. Want to share with you an upcoming Parent Academy. We are having a Parent Academy on Wednesday, June 8th. It's on Net Smarts. This is pretty interesting. Tara Jardulo, our lieutenant, shared today about internet and cyber safety. It'll be presented at 7 p.m. at Crossroads North here, actually right here. And the content, no children are at this one. And Jen, are we streaming this one?
I'm sorry?
Are we streaming this one?
No. At this juncture, No, we're trying to find out if they'll allow it, but we
Because
still
it's
don't
an
know.
outside,
Yes,
okay, Secret Service on this one?
yes.
Okay, so if they don't give us permission, we don't stream at that point. If we are, we'll of course share if we're able to do that. Important, another great reason we have these wonderful people in the audience, or some of the wonderful people in the audience, they might not all be, but we are recognizing our PTO presidents. Another group I get to work with every month, Barry and I meet with the PTO presidents, and a stellar group of people, they really are. And see, Deepika's up there, where's she? There she is. We talk about things, they ask good questions, we get to share insights and kind of get sounding board from this group of people that represent their whole school communities. And we actually moved those meetings to Zoom, another, I think, a COVID win. Parents often have a hard time getting out, and this allows that to happen. But for those of you here tonight, let's have at least one in person so someone can make some cookies. We have no cookies. Lisa has agreed to make, Lisa will make cookies if we have a PTO council meeting. So I vote for that. Great group. I know the principals are here tonight to help share that. And I'm going to close out my part. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Disler for an announcement about the art show.
Thanks. So it's an exciting time of year. We are celebrating our 17th annual Joanne Kirkus Art Gallery. Joanne was the former assistant superintendent and had such a love for the arts and worked so closely with this department that in her retirement it's been named for her. And we're super excited and proud that it is a tradition here. It is going to be virtual once again, and we have a commercial just to show to get people excited about it. It goes live next week, a week from today. A special thank you to all of the art teachers and our student artists who participated this year. Also, Kristen Laskin and Blair Eisman for overseeing this great group, these great departments at all levels. And also, Rebecca Bufis, one of our art teachers, she put together this commercial for us. And also a thank you to Beth, Kyle, and Mark. They are technology staff developers. And I don't know if you remember the gallery last year. It was so awesome. They used a platform called Amaze, and it really gave you that same vibe and feeling of being in an actual gallery. And so with their help, their magic powers, they have helped to put it all together so that we have a beautiful way to celebrate art in South Brunswick. So please share the video. Turn it back over to you. I don't know who I'm turning it back over to. Who's it? We're taking over. Scott.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Disler, for that presentation. First, I want to say forgive me for being late tonight, but I'm grateful to be here in one piece at least. So we're going to move right along with the program here to recognition, PTO President's Council by the principals. Mr. Rattino, correct? Peter Mr. Rattino, I'm sorry. You're in his hands now.
Thank you. Good evening to the board members. Good evening to all those who are here in attendance and those watching remotely. On behalf of the school administrators, my name is Peter Rattine. I'm the principal of Indian Fields Elementary School. It's my pleasure to recognize our PTO presidents and school site council president. It is clear from my colleagues that you are each an integral part of the school community. You are extremely giving of one of the most important aspects of your life, your time. Thank you for making our schools even better for our students, our staff, and our community. You bring smiles to many faces through events, supplies, community gatherings, assemblies, philanthropy, and much, much more. Your leadership is evident in every event. Thank you for all you do. Tonight, we especially take this opportunity to recognize your dedication, which has contributed to the success and happiness of our school community. We now have a short video to illustrate some of your incredible work and the appreciation we all have for you.
If I can reach the stars, pull one down for you, shining on my heart, so you could see the truth. And this love I have inside is everything it seems. But for now I find it's only in my dreams that I can change the world. I will be the sunlight in your universe. You would think my love was really something good. Baby, if I could change the world. If I could be king, even for a day, I'd take you as my queen. I'd have no other way. And our love will rule in this kingdom we have made. Till then I'd be a fool, wishing for the day that I can change the world. I would be the sunlight in your universe. You would think my love was really something good. Baby, if I could change the world.
I'd like to ask Mr. Mitchell to come join me at the podium for a moment. And I'd like to ask all of the PTO presidents, as well as our PTO council president, to come stand on the side here. And we're going to introduce all of you, give you a round of applause, have you come up. And as a parting piece, back in the building, where you will get to be with your principal, other administrators that you work with, we'll have a certificate for you there in the building so that you can get it directly from that person in the place that you work. So tonight we'll recognize you, and then back kind of in your home court with all of those people you work with, you'll get a certificate there as well. So if you can all please come to the side here, and we'll call you up and acknowledge you. Thank you very much. All right, so instead of going through all the names, let's be strategic and see if we can figure out who you are and announce who you are here instead of, there's a lot more names here. So Is there someone from Brooks Crossing here? No. Brooks Crossing. Perfect. All right. So Ina Betty from Brooks Crossing, thank you so much. Do we have from Brunswick Acres here tonight? You are? I know there's two. Mary, thank you. Mary Salama Atia. Congratulations and thank you very much. Thank you. Cambridge? No one from Cambridge. Okay. And Constable? No one from Constable. Okay. Greenbrook? Okay. Indian Fields, I know, is not here. I should know that. Linda Williams from Monmouth Junction. All right. You are? We're going to get there. Middle school? High school. There we go. Okay. All right, so Deepika Chandola from the middle school, both middle schools. Thank you so much. Congratulations. Thank you. And Lizette Lopez from the high school. Thank you for all you do. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you again to our PTO presidents and council president, and thank you for all you do for our students, our staff, and our community. And thank you for the Board of Education. I turn it back over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ratine, for that presentation, and congratulations to all the parents, the parent council, and to all the principals for all the support that you give to our students and to our teachers. It means much, it means a lot, so we thank you for that. At this time, we're going to move on to public comment on agenda items only. Public comments. The Board of Education recognizes the value of public comment on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express themselves on school matters of community interest. Complete copies of the rules that govern this portion of the meeting are available to the public at the back of the room, or you can obtain an advanced copy by contacting the board office during regular business hours. We reserve the right to limit each speaker to no more than 3 minutes. It is our plan to listen to each member of the public. We will note all questions and comments made. Once all questions and comments from all members of the public are made, the Board of Education will respond, if necessary, to questions or comments in the most timely and efficient manner available. Please consider not repeating comments and questions made by other members of the public. I ask that you state your name, place of residence, or your group affiliation. Is anyone signed up to speak?
No registered speakers for agenda items only.
Okay, and would anyone in the audience like to come to the mic and speak? Thank you. Please state your name, place of residence, or your group affiliation.
Hi, good evening. My name is Vanessa Dunbar. I live in Kendall Park. I missed the last few meetings. I'm kind of glad you tabled an agenda item a few times. I'm here to discuss or just say my opinion on the committee that Mr. Keener is asking all of you to review and approve. I think it's a really good idea. And why I think that is because I understand one of the board members said that you're a policy committee and not an HR committee. True. However, you do vote to hire someone or to terminate someone. You are also involved in the committees for negotiations. I've learned a lot over the last few months watching the open transparency, which I also agree with the transparency here. I've learned a lot. So with having the committees and the negotiations, you're voting on that. You're voting on whether that person is qualified. And I'm going to pick on transportation, not because my husband works in transportation, because of my own knowledge. My husband and I owned a trucking company. And in order to even become corporated or LLC, C Corp, S Corp, you have to go through the DOT, your MC, your driver record, your driver files, drug testing, alcohol testing. You have to keep records of all of this, and you need to know if your driver is qualified. They have to go through testing every year or 2 years, depending on what your qualifications are through your, when you go to the doctor each year. They either give you a 1 year or a 2 year renewal on your CDL license. And there's many forms of a CDL license. You can have double tankers, triple tankers, hazmat. You, as a bus driver, you not only need to have your CDL, you also are supposed to have a S&P for school bus and passenger. It's a lot, and people don't look at like, oh, they're just a truck driver or they're just a bus driver. There's a lot behind getting these licenses. And again, it's just my knowledge of it and what I had to go through with meeting the state police to get approved to own that truck company. You really need to know the qualifications of your employees, or if you're approving to terminate someone, the reason behind terminating. And I just hope that you listen to what Mr. Keener says with his committees that he wants you to think about and possibly approve. And one more thing I'd like to point out, his website for transportation, extremely informative. That if any parent wants to see what you have to go through to keep those buses safe and running and go through those inspections every 6 months, it's very, very informative to know that your children are safe on the South Brunswick school buses. So it's just very informative. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Are there any other comments? On agenda items only.
Consent agenda items.
I will keep this brief. My name is Sharon. I'm from Monmouth Junction. I lived at Monmouth Walk for 29 years. Based on transportation and everything that this young lady had said, we have issues with the buses too, and we're just parents. My name is Sharon.
Hold on, Sharon, you're gonna have to wait until the second public comment. This is on agenda items only.
I'm on the agenda. I should be on the agenda. No?
No.
Okay.
No. So the first, Sharon, the first public comment is for the items that the board is voting on the consent agenda. There's a second opportunity.
That's okay.
That's okay, I'm just explaining. The second opportunity for public comment is the
Any
opportunity
topic.
for any topic whatsoever.
We'll get there fast for you.
Yep, we'll be there in 2 seconds. Any other public comment on agenda items only?
Okay, if there be none, we're going to move right along to consent agenda review and walkthrough. Back over to
Mr.
Mr. Pulowski.
All right, everybody. Tonight on the consent agenda, we have a approval of withdrawal from maintenance reserve for a very large flooring project that's going to happen this summer. Mr. Scaletti will talk a little bit more about that in his report from the Facilities Committee. We have a couple of bid awards. We did a kitchen time and material. We also have a grease trap clean out. Those are time and material bid awards. We have travel reimbursement for related expenses, student field trips, and some professional development that some staff are moving towards, and some board members as well. A very quick and easy consent agenda for you this evening. If there's any questions, I'll take them now.
Are there any questions or comments? None? Okay, we'll move over to old business. Part I, board committees. We'll move you over to Mr. Keener at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. Members, I handed out prior to the meeting just an updated, I had emailed everyone based on some feedback that I received from several board members as well as from the administration, I made some adjustments, and you have to forgive me, I left my glasses out in the truck, so I can't see real well. I don't know if I look good in that color.
I have another pair.
It works. So one of the, as I said, the committee structure itself stays the same. One of the biggest adjustments was that we continue to have the 2 public meetings per month on the second and fourth Thursday of each month. And then the adjustment to the committee schedule would be that prior to the first public meeting on the second Thursday at 5:30, there would be one committee meeting from 5:30 to 7 o'clock. Then we would have our public session for board meeting. And then the week in between the second and the fourth, there would be 2 other committee meetings, one from 5:30 to 7, the other from 7 to 8:30. For consistency, we could do it on a Thursday, but that's optional. But once we select the date that we're going to, or the day of the week that we're going to do it, we would stick with that. So if we say we want to do it on the Wednesday, it would be every Wednesday. That way, the board members can plan their schedules accordingly, and they'll know in advance. That's pretty much it. I hope to ask any questions, but like I said, I got several comments from several board members liking the structure. I think it's important to note that under the human resources, where we include personnel, it is not for us to make a decision on whom we are hiring, but so that we know more about the positions that we are being asked to fill. We're not going to interrogate and go into depth with the HR department saying, you know, let's have the resume of everyone, and so that we can make, no, that's not, that's their expertise is, that's for them to make those decisions. It is for the position itself, so we, as a board, know what the qualifications are for each position that we're looking to add or subtract, whatever we're going to do. So, thank you, Mr. Mitchell. Anybody have any questions, comments?
Just right after
Yes.
this, real quick, I just want, because I wasn't there, I just want to make sure. Did you guys discuss the when, or just committees for now?
We discussed the when. We said that we would do the public meetings, keeping them the same as we are now, 2
Okay.
public meetings, the second and fourth. But prior to the public meeting on the second Thursday, there would be a committee
Okay, I
meeting
can see.
from
So-
5:30
okay,
to 7.
Thank you.
And then the following week, yes.
Okay, sorry.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Gainer. I have one question, is, the group that's going to meet on the second Thursday at 5:30, will that be on a rotational, or is that going to be kind of, if that works for that group, to stay with that group?
I mean, we can
Is each
talk
group
about
going to
it.
kind of have their own little, I want to say, like, if that group works for everybody in that group on the Thursday, would they be able to stay with that?
My initial intent was to say that once we schedule, if it's business operations, prior to the board meeting at 5:30 on the second Thursday, that would remain the same. But, I mean, we can talk about it and debate and figure out what works best for everyone. But I just felt for consistency's sake, the more consistent we stay with the schedule, the easier it is for us all to adjust, plan our schedules in advance.
Thank you.
Choose the committee. I think where you're going is choose the committee where people can make that time.
Correct, that's what
Right.
I'm looking at.
Pick the right
is
one for that 5:30 slot.
Right, like I know
The
for-
other 2 you could rotate, but this one,
Kind of stays where it's at. Like I know for like my committee right now, we all kind of, the 3 of us agreed 6:15, you know, instead of a 6 o'clock. It's just easier for some other board members to get there at 6:15. We've all agreed on it, and it works a little bit easier, so we make sure everybody's able to make it. So that's why I just wanted to know if it would kind of be a little concrete, which is, I think, a good idea.
Yeah, thank you. And one of the other pieces of feedback I got was trying to do it in an hour it was really trying to push it. So by putting that extra half hour in there, everyone felt that it was more beneficial to us being able to get through an agenda. And the key to it is having an agenda, working with Mr. Pawlowski to put the agendas together so that we have an agenda for the committee meetings and we can follow that agenda and stay on topic.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments?
Yeah. Go ahead. No, floor is Barry's.
Thank you. I want to first thank Ray for working really hard on this. I know he's gone back and forth and got feedback from everybody, including me. I sent him an email earlier, I believe yesterday, but the only thing that, I really like this structure. The only thing that, I think that he should consider and the board should consider is separating transportation and facilities out from finance and budget. I think sometimes the two would bog down in that hour and a half. It also gives the opportunity for the 8 of us, because the president is on every board. It gives us more of an opportunity to be on more than one committee, and it also allows for 4 chair. I think that might just work a little bit better, that's all.
Thank you, Mr. Nathanson, and I understand that and I appreciate it. What I did say was one member of the board would have the option to step forward and serve on a committee, because as you pointed out, the president serves on all. So 3 committees, 9 members, that means 1 member would be asked, and there are several that wouldn't mind serving on a second committee. So they could step forward and we'd have to come up with a way to say yay or nay. Obviously, the president would have the final say on it. And to your point about transportation, finance, and facilities, if you look at our top 3 expenses as a district, transportation, facilities are your second and third, and then your next is your payroll, which is your payroll is going to be your payroll. So I just think that from what I've seen and what I've been experienced too, finance ties hand in hand with facilities as well as transportation. It just seems to be a natural flow, because that really, your transportation and your facilities really can affect your budget more than anything. Just what we saw with going out to the triples, it affected Mr. Pawlowski's world tremendously.
The only thing is that, Ray, the checks and balances of the committees is that, so in that case, transportation looked at it, and then it went to budget and finance, and they looked at it on the finance end. So that was my thinking in that. Sure. Plus, again, it allows, because we have the 8 members, and we don't get bogged down with that one person have to do 2. If we had another committee, then we'll have an opportunity for more board members to have more than one committee. That's all I was thinking.
No, and I appreciate that, and I understand it. And like I said, when I started this, my intent was to try to lessen the amount of time for administrators, as well as us as board members, try to consolidate a little bit. But I understand where you're coming from as well.
Thank you.
Okay, Mrs. Rogers, and then Mr. Scoletti.
Thank you. I need my glasses. Thank you. So I have, no, they're pretty, aren't they? So a couple questions. First of all, I personally like it. I'll start with the personnel. I do believe personnel should be, or human resources should be part of this as well. One of the things that I have considered is that I think not just the board, but, well, actually the board should have a better understanding of open positions. the number of open positions, the type of positions that are open, i.e., hypothetically, 10 kindergarten teachers, I know that's a lot, 5, paraprofessionals, whatever the case may be, having it go through committee, it gives the eyes of the board on that particular area. I think it's important for us to understand, where that's going. The other thing that I do like is, I personally like business operations. Having come from that world, that's what I'm used to seeing, finance, transportation, facilities as a group. And the reason is, and to dovetail off of what you had just said, when a large expense such as facilities needs to be undertaken, Joe is very, very good at making sure that it runs through budget. This would only expedite that particular effort. We would not have to wait for the budget committee to meet. And I think it is important that this is a top-line expense, transportation and facilities. I think having that discussion at the same time would only be beneficial to the entire district to move forward with everything. The other thing that I have a question on is, under education and under human resources, there's IT and IT shared services. I do have more questions after this, Mr. Vice President, but I would like to ask, what is the difference?
There should be a comma or a slash between IT and shared services. Could go under human resources, or you could split it up and you could put IT under curriculum. You have some leeway in that. But shared services could be under either one, and so could IT.
Oh, no, that's fine. Shared services is fine under human, I just wanted to make sure I understood, because IT is referenced twice under education and human resources, so
Yeah.
I'm a little.
My initial was to keep it under curriculum, and then I'm like,
Oh,
when
I
I put
see
it
now what you're
together,
saying. Okay,
yeah, it
misunderstood
could be
you.
either.
All right, so we have to make a decision on that?
Yeah.
Okay. And then two other things. The one thing that does have me slightly concerned is the time. And it could have been just an oddity, but the curriculum committee at one point, we pushed 2 hours. So I don't know, we might have to manage that from an agenda perspective, that if we realize that any committee, not just curriculum, but if we think that the agenda is going to be pushing that 2-hour mark, we have to really think about prioritization of that particular agenda at that moment. So that's something to consider. Because if one's going to meet from 5:30 to 7, we do have an obligation to end 5 of 7 or 6:55 so that the next one starts. So that, I think, is something that when the agenda is created, that needs to be kept in mind. The other thing is, you had made a comment, and it may just have been the comment. I think the agenda needs to be developed by the committee chair and the person in charge. So for example, or the assistant superintendent, excuse me, my apologies. So under business operations, obviously the business administrator makes sense in that particular effort. Under education, that would be, I believe, Dr. Disler and the committee chair would make that agenda. And under human resources, Ms. White, as well as the committee chair for that one, should be responsible for creating the agenda. So just to clarify, for clarification purposes, that's all. Dave doesn't need to get involved in all the other ones. He should be focused on that. It should be run by him.
I agree.
We could copy him, but.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but does not everything have to go through you?
Yeah.
So that's why, but yes, putting
The
it
creation
together,
of
the
it.
creation
Right,
can go.
right.
And to your point, as far as timeframes, if you start out, the first couple of months are going to be a little bit tough, but once you get into a routine
Yeah.
and you get on a roll, you stay within your timeframes.
Yeah.
And your agenda is critical.
Yeah, and I think, and again, just to reemphasize, I think that was just an oddity that one time was a lengthy conversation. And if we feel that we are going to go over, maybe we need to discuss the structure for that particular meeting. Maybe the second committee could start at, 7:15, or be pushed, or, to another day, just to accommodate timing. Okay.
Let me just, real quick, Ray,
I'm not so sure I would be creating the agenda for the education or the human resources
That's
committee.
what you just said. You no,
Yeah.
no. We just,
no.
yeah, in our example, I'll use, because we don't have a human resources right now, but Dr. Disler and I work on, she puts the initial agenda together.
Got it.
So that, because she knows what needs to be covered. And then and the committee chair reviews it to make sure that makes sense, reaches out if necessary to the other committee members to see if there's anything in addition. But usually that takes place, if we have to add anything, it's usually done at at a meeting, and then that's added as a new item for the next meeting.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah,
Sounds
It's the
like-
same
For those
reason.
two, the business
Facilities.
administrator.
And the facilities does basically
Right.
the same thing
Right.
with all of that. I mean,
Right.
I call Mr. Pulaski up, we discuss about the agenda, he gets it up, he gets it to me, and then at that point, it'll go out to Dr. Raj and to Mrs. Rogers, it'll go out to everybody, and then we have our meeting. And I think one of the biggest things, I know for us in facilities, we do it too, and it's just the nature of the beast, we get off topic. You know what I'm saying? We kind of roll off topic, and we kind of
Right.
roll here and roll there.
Yeah.
To whereas, if we, yes, we have an agenda, we've always had an agenda, but if we really just stick to the agenda, I know a couple times a year for us in facilities, it's very, there's a lot. You know, there's, our bids go out, September, October, for the summer, so that's a busy time of year.
Right.
And then we start getting updates what they're doing during the winter break, what they're doing during the spring break. So there's different aspects of that, but more importantly, if we stay on topic, you know what I'm saying? And we do majority well, you know what I'm saying? We do majority. But I getting back to the business operations here, I know for myself, we had in the consent agenda for tonight about the carpeting throughout the entire district. Okay, that's a change. We were only going to do the high school and this, that. But then it came to us and said, hey, we have elementary schools that need help. We have middle schools that need help. The whole district needs help, not just the high school. Every school needs something carpet-wise. So when we talked about this, we said, hey, let's go back. We have to go to budget. We have to go to finance on this. What did they say? Did we have the money? To whereas if items like that, I can just say, hey, Dave, can we pull this up? We look at it, we're all part of the same group, then we could say yes, because what happens is we table it. And then by tabling it, it pushes the bids back and it pushes everything else back. So us having the financing on that really helps our facilities committee out a lot, because it works us, we could see the numbers right away. And that's one of the biggest problems, and I don't want to say problems, but one of the biggest things, because it's, we'll email everybody back, make sure they have enough, and then I usually call the chairman of the budget, or whatever, and back and forth, so do we have this, do we have that? It will just take all of that out, so things will move smoother, and obviously there's a learning curve, and we'll have to play around with this a little bit with times and stuff, but that's nothing. But I like the idea of us being able to look at the money when we're dealing with large-scale projects. I mean, I'm doing HVAC, a ton of roofs, carpeting. We're doing big money stuff for these children in the school district. I want to be able to see everything. Thank you.
Dr. Raj was going next. All right, I can.
Mrs. Karthik?
All right, so
And then
I have
Dr.
a
Raj.
couple of observations. First of all, thank you to Mr. Keena for putting so much work and being so diligent about this new committee structure. I'm excited about it because, firstly, I think it, I would urge our fellow board members not to lose sight of the fact that we are primarily a policy-making body, and folding in policy-making into these groups makes a lot of sense. So, sort of disbanding our policy committee, which is a standalone committee, and sort of involving policy making into these working groups makes a lot of sense. I think we'll have more meaningful policies coming out of this sort of a structure. That is the first thing that I wanted to say. The second observation I had, and was I wanted to build off Mr. Nathanson's observation, was regarding the check and balance aspect of this. And I wasn't very clear as to, and I'd request Mr. Nathanson to sort of elaborate a little bit on it. We are at this point proposing that we sort of club in finance, transportation, and facilities together. If we were to isolate finance as a committee separately and maintain business operations with transportation and facilities, how would that look and what would that mean for us? Or if we were to put all of them together, what would that look? On two aspects. One is the checks and balances that Mr. Nathanson referred to. And the second was the workload that would involve, and I think that's my biggest concern, because we need to make sure that, I know that facilities is a lot of work going on in it, and so does transportation. In order to ensure that we do full justice to the amount of work that needs to be done, how does that look for us as a group? That's the first thing. The second question I did have was Mrs. Rogers touched upon, was the IT and the IT shared services. I think that's an easy win for us, so we can figure that out. I also had a question on the committee reports. At this point in time, we have, and what I've observed in the last couple of months is, we have a system where the chair of the committee reads the reports or briefs the board members at a board meeting. So I am reacting to information that is being provided to me at this board meeting. And I think if we can look at sort of revising that a little bit, it would help. If I could get the minutes of that meeting ahead of time, that would help me to look at it and bring up my questions and be more thoughtful about it. So I think that's maybe if we can incorporate that would help us. I'm a little undecided about this when part of it, because I can make a 5:30 to 7 work, for example, but I'm not so sure if all of us can consistently make a 5:30 p.m. work. Some of us get off at work at 5 o'clock, and that can be a little bit of a difficulty. And then we are extending a situation which some of our board members, our colleagues, will be required to stay, and also our administrators would require to stay between 5:30 and then proceeding almost up till 9 or 8:30 or 9 kind of. So I don't know if that becomes a really extended evening for them and for all of us. So maybe something to think about.
I appreciate that. Some of the feedback that I was given was the 5:30 and consolidating, not, because sometimes some of the administrators are hanging around, they, say they are done at 4, they're hanging around till 5, 6, 7 o'clock to start a committee meeting. This way, they're lessening the amount, we as a board are lessening the amount of meetings we're having. We're reducing the amount of meetings that they're having, and they can schedule accordingly. And the give and take is, it may be tough to make a 5:30 meeting, but I mean, we ran for a public office, and there's give and take to that. So maybe making a 5:30 meeting is a little tougher, but you're reducing the amount of times that you're going to be going out. You can schedule accordingly. It just seems to flow a little bit better, but I don't have all the answers, yeah.
If, if the administrators agree with it and if everybody has a consensus, I don't feel very strongly about this. I'm fine. I just was speaking more from a humane point of view. Is this too exhausting for people? Will we be able to focus and so on and so forth? That's all there was to it. But overall, these are just my points, Mr. Keena, and again, I applaud you for staying with this and pursuing all of us to think about this new structures. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
For putting this together and keeping us focused on this. At the risk of repeating myself, I do like the idea of clubbing finance, transportation, and facilities, but I do have some concerns too. It's, going by my experience on the facilities committee, we sometimes spend several hours at each meeting, and especially when a big project is coming up and we need to do a lot of reading. if finance and budgetary aspect is to be clubbed with the operations part of it, I'm thinking that the workload will be in the multiples of what we went through as just facilities committee. And that way, the burden on the 3 people in the business operations committee will be way more than the other committees, board members on the other committees. So the distribution of work will be skewed, and that will affect the members on the Business Operations Committee. And I would also like to hear from Mr. Nathanson on the checks and balances aspect. I'm curious to understand what it is. The synergies are obvious. Money, after all, the dollar is what determines, what drives a lot of things that we think of in the Facilities Committee, a lot of things that goes on in the Facilities Committee. But what I'm concerned is the time and effort and the burden on the members participating in that committee. And also that the other concern I have is the opportunity for all board members to serve on 2 committees. So that will be sort of reduced. I see participating in committees as an opportunity to learn and also to bring fresh perspectives. Participating in 2 different committees is it's very rewarding. It's very rewarding, as well as that perspective, bringing fresh perspective. It helps. I would see if there is. I would request the board to consider a possibility where every member gets to serve on 2 committees. Is there a way we could figure that out? Thanks.
So, to your point, thank you. Transportation, your largest and your most often talked about is facilities. That's pretty much on a monthly basis. Transportation has 2 times of the year where they're busy. Usually September, after school has started up, dealing with contractors and issues that are come up, and then in March, maybe April. That's your busiest times. But transportation really, if you look on our agenda, there's very little that goes on in transportation during the course of the year, depending on the year, as far as new students enrolling. Your biggest cost is your out-of-district special needs transportation, so that comes up. So that's not a big topic at your committee meetings. It can be covered relatively quickly. And to your point about serving on 2 committees, technically you are, because right now you have a separate committee for finance and you have a separate committee for facilities. So we've just combined those 2, so you're getting exposed to 2 areas. The same with human resources. So you are getting exposed, but you only have to go to 1 meeting. So you are getting that exposure to 2 different committees. If you're looking at business operations, right now, finance is separate than facilities. So we're combining them. So now you're participating in 2 different areas. And we're expanding on the education with curriculum and, I don't have my glasses, what else did I put? And student services. So you're getting, and right now, we don't get any information, very little information on student services. So now we're going to get a little bit more. So you're combining those 2. And the same with human resources. So you're at 1 meeting, but you're getting hit with more items so that the learning curve is there.
Mr. Keener, my point really was when we have 2 different committees, one for budget and finance and other for facilities and transportation, we have 6 people, 6 board members, 6 different perspectives, and that makes a difference. And when we combine it, there will be only 3 people. There's three perspectives. So we are missing a lot of. There is a potential to miss a lot of value, which otherwise we could have harnessed.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, I have a question for the current budget committee. You meet monthly currently?
No.
How many times do you meet?
I think everybody should understand. The finance and transportation, those committees meet when necessary. So budget/finance
That's my
meets, once, twice, October, November, once, twice, January, February, and then a lot of our board presentations. So that's kind of like the busy season for budgeting. Your transportation, as Ray said, is September and March. Your facilities is really September, October, November, and then we're really just giving you updates as to regards to facilities projects and things that are going and how the projects are moving along, and any other things that may come up from building visits and things to that sense. So it's a doable structure with regards to the number of people, only because the busy seasons for all of these different sectors of your district are spread. They're not overlapping. We can't have a meeting and talk finance and transportation the same night. We'll be there for 2, 3, 4 hours. You can't have a meeting and talk transportation and facilities. We'll be there for 3 hours. If these are hour-long meetings, we're going to have to sit down and talk about what's important, what has to be, what the meeting topic is, and stay on that agenda item.
That's what I want, a little bit more clarification on, and maybe Dave, you could do it. So from what you had mentioned, so transportation, busy season, right? September, March. Facilities, September through November, then updates. What are we looking at when you hit budget in terms of prior to the new budget being developed? When does that all start, and how often do you meet until budget is approved?
February, March, in that time frame, and then you usually revisit it maybe in October to start putting your next year's budget together.
Okay, so the only overlap that potential, this is what I see, so correct me if I'm wrong, okay? The overlap would be in March, potentially, when you're talking transportation update in March and finance in March. That's the potential.
Right, potential.
Okay, facilities would not be brought up in March. But the potential is that the agenda would shift each month based on need. So September through November, you're talking facilities mainly, with transportation thrown in there. Then,
Well, Lisa.
I want to understand the
So without
overlap.
the specifics, the concept of, you don't necessarily going to do all three every time.
Correct.
That's
I wanted to see
But trying
if
to,
there
you're not going to be able
was-
to map out a month-to-month right now.
Right, correct,
Just
I agree.
concept.
I agree with you 100%. I just wanted to understand if there was an overlap of all three at any point, but it doesn't look
Yes.
like.
There will be, of course there will be.
That, but
Of
from
course
what,
there will be.
from what we're discussing, it doesn't,
no.
it should not often happen that often.
But it will.
Right.
And I
It will.
think you need to understand too, when we say transportation's busy time is March, you're not looking at 3 hours of debate. It's pretty much cut and dry. You put a bid spec together.
Right.
And you go out to bid, and then you discuss, your biggest discussion is, really,
But
what do
Ray,
we want in the
Ray,
bid spec?
but what you just described was what you do as a transportation coordinator, not what a committee does.
And that's
A
why.
committee is not getting into bid specs.
Exactly.
Right, I think that's
So,
what he was saying, yeah.
so the concept here is to try and move us along, because we're spinning in circles. The idea here is, do you want to try something a little different, where we take things that might cluster together, give it a try. The time commitment could wind up being an Achilles heel to this, and that your 1 hour, your 1.5 hours may or may not work. It might be fine. It might be fine. You don't have to bag it because of that. It might be fine. If it's not, we adjust. Remember, adjusting to a new schedule doesn't require a movement of a mountain. It's just a group of people saying, hey, that works for me. And that's really what it means. If it's, remember, I appreciate that, I think Ray was talking about the administration. I appreciate that. Thank you for saying, our time, now, we get paid though. You guys are
Your
volunteers.
time is still valuable.
It is valuable, but we get paid. So we get paid for our valuable time. So the idea here is if, let's say that the finance, transportation, facilities, let's just say that that is not happening in an hour and a half. So fine. So then instead of 3 nights, That group of people will be on a different night instead of that night. It's still 3 nights for that group of people. And in this case, it's Dave and me. It's not Kim and Jen. And Dave would not be coming to the education ones. You can cross him off of that one. He's not needed to come to that set of meetings. And it's okay. Like, it's manageable. It's manageable. But you can try it this way with the rotation on the one night where there's 2 meetings. One's at 5:30, so that way if you can't make a 5:30, it's once every 2 months. One night every 2 months you have to make a 5:30. It's the other one that's on the night of a board meeting, to Joe's point before, where that is the group that, let's see if you want that group of people to be 5:30 people. So you're looking like Deepa said, I can do 5:30, at least like I can do 5:30, and if Ray says, I can do 5:30, why don't we put them on the same committee? And have that committee meet at 5:30 on the night of the board meeting. So there's ways to manage that. If you can tonight, if you look at this and say, you know what, a little tweaking, we're not going to solve that right this minute. Give us the feedback. We can take this. We can convert this to a plan to put on an agenda and say, here, guys, here's the plan. But remember, the beauty of this, it's completely and totally flexible. There's nothing written in stone that it can't be changed at any given point without board action. You can move a night of a meeting without, you don't need board action for that. We don't need a vote. You just simply say, hey, you know what? The 3 people on the finance committee and the business operations committee say, this whole Tuesday thing isn't working for me. And all 3 of them say, you know what, me neither. Let's do it on Mondays. It's now on Mondays.
And also, if we
That
find
works.
that we need that split, and we
Then
need
split.
that 4th committee, then we add
You
that
don't
4th.
need board action. You
Right.
don't need committee conversation.
Correct.
You just do what you need to do at that point. Right now, what I think is being presented is a structure that allows us to possibly streamline, we think, maybe not, but more than that, you're combining things and talking about topics we currently don't even have in committee. So, you know, that you don't talk currently about student services as a specialized committee, and that might be a really huge advantage. Or it might be like after 6 months, okay, I don't need that anymore. So human resource, a whole new concept to discuss that. But the way Ray has explained it is you're not looking at, we're not presenting you with resumes. If there's a structure that we're looking to change, a structure, that might not happen for 6 straight months. There might not be a conversation to be had. So if you look at this and are like, yeah, I got some questions, the good news about this, other than a traditional agenda item that takes action, this is you. This is just you. And if you are into this concept, I suggest give it a try. Give it a try. And if you give it a try and it works, keep going. If it needs tweaks, you just make the tweaks. That's all.
I just have one more comment. I would like to know, and this doesn't have to be done right now, but obviously policy will be contained within each committee, but when there's, and bylaws. The bylaws, though, I want to make sure are addressed because we need to make sure that we have a process if there is a request to add or change a bylaw. So
bylaws that
I
fall under
want
human
that written.
resources.
I think that needs to be written out.
But bylaws fall under personnel.
Shall we go under personnel?
It has to, because you fall under
Perfect.
personnel.
Perfect, that makes that
Did that
change.
answer it?
It does. So add bylaws to personnel, to human resources, excuse me.
I think, Mrs. Rogers touched upon it. The most, for me, the most critical takeaway from this committee structure is that we are going to be making policies within these working groups. I think that is the key takeaway for me, which will enable us to make meaningful policies. At this point, we have a standalone policy committee, which I feel doesn't really encourage encourage good policy making, meaningful policy making. Once we allow transportation committee members to make the policies because they're seeing the day-to-day work, that will add immense value. So I think, Mrs. Rogers, to your point.
Sorry. Yes, I agree. Yes, I think it's important.
Yeah, and we getting the pre-read, if there's a policy change to, let's say, facilities, right?
Yep.
If we get the pre-read, we'll get a readout here, we get a pre-read in our mailbox, we have a full board discussion, and then we adopt it, right?
Yep.
So I think this makes total sense to me.
and
Yeah,
take
like I
out
said, I
business.
just think this is a good starting point, and we can tweak it, you know, what works, what doesn't work, and keep revisiting until we iron it all out.
So just to wrap it up, so we have, we're taking the BA off of education. We're going to add bylaws under human resources.
Right.
And then my only question is implementation. Wouldn't it be more appropriate to implement this at the beginning of, when we reorganize, have a new administration in place? I mean, tell me what you think.
My thought would be
That's
that
January.
maybe we could start it in September. That way we get a couple months to
Okay, I
work
can
out
work
the
with that.
tweaks.
Okay.
So I'd like to make the, we actually start this in the summer months. I know we don't meet that much, we only meet one meeting a month, okay? But what it'll do, though, is we can iron a lot of stuff out throughout the summer, or just say June. Iron some things out, and then tweak what we have to tweak, and that way we hit September running with it. And then, because that's when a lot of things really start working, you know what I'm saying? That's when, you know, HR, everything's really starting to really move here. By that time, we've already worked a lot of the little kinks out of all
Well,
this.
in that we're in May already, maybe we want to say, let's try for July.
Thank you.
So that
That's
we
fine.
can get things
Right.
ironed out July and August,
Yeah.
so that by September, we're
'Cause there's a
hitting the
lot-
ground.
There's a lot happening in curriculum,
Yeah.
and I think we need to get through that, if I'm not mistaken. So we should get through, and facilities as well, let's like wrap it up for
That's
the
what I'm saying,
year.
but if we
For June.
start June, and in July, we actually start with this new committee in July, you know, our summer projects are really going hard, but at that point, curriculum is starting to slow. You're already starting to look at next year, but we can actually start that, whoever's gonna be on that committee can actually start getting ready. Same with finance.
Just keep in mind,
My own,
You've got
But
multiple
Mike-
people
but
right
Mike-
now on committees, I'm sorry.
just
Mr.
what
Feder.
Mike brought up, if you think about it, he suggested you start at the next change at a reorg. The reason that might make sense
Yeah.
is right now, you have people that are on committees that will no longer be on those committees.
Yeah, I agree, I think reorg.
That's a bit of a problem, to just do that from in the middle, without a real, you know, so it's possible that's what might need to happen to be cleanest, because your people that are currently on facilities are not the same people that are necessarily on finance, so who's gonna survive that, the slicing of that? And that's what you're gonna find in this, if you just go to it like that, you're gonna have to and if you remember, getting two committees was, I would say, generously saying it was only painful. It really should be saying excruciatingly painful would be more appropriate. And if you're now going to say that you're all going to then provide the president with your hopes and dreams for committee work,
Agree.
I'm going to be absent that month,
I agree.
because I don't know I'm prepared for that again. So it's not off base to say, Ray's presented a structure. Do you think you can move to it? Are you willing to give up your seat at the table you're currently sitting at for somebody else to take your seat? Because that's what you're going to be doing.
That's right.
If you do it now.
Yeah,
Just put it out there. Excruciating pain.
yeah, I don't want to deal with that.
Mrs. Karthik?
I like Mr. Mitchell's suggestion that, you know, maybe we do a fresh start in the next year. But to, you know, also make sure that we sort of have a mid-part here. I was wondering if we would be willing to consider. Right now, we don't have a human resources group. And we have three, whatever, work streams, I'm going to call them, here that are listed as personnel, community relations, and shared services. Maybe we can start and figure out if that works for us, like maybe a pilot group.
So I think that we've got a lot of great thoughts. Maybe what we need to do is each of us take this back and digest it for the next month, come back to the table next month and follow up, adding all these points in that we can all digest, come back with another hit at it.
Thank you, Mr. Keener.
yeah, that makes sense.
So we'll add two more items to what I just said, the start date of the new committee structure, and also, Ms.
Well, we're going to
Karthik.
revisit everything.
Right,
next
but
meeting.
just to, for everybody to understand, you know, let's think about that through, if we should add the human resources sooner than January.
And again, if you have thoughts or any ideas you have, email me, and I'll incorporate them in so we're all on the same page.
Okay.
Excellent.
Thank you very much. We had a very fruitful conversation regarding board committees. I don't think there's anything else we need to do. Okay. I'm sorry, say it again. Table communications. Okay, I'd like to move to table communications once again.
Make a motion to table communications.
I'll communicate that.
Moved and properly seconded, moved by Mrs. Rogers and seconded by Dr. Raj. All in favor? Aye. Any nays? Obviously, no discussion. Okay, we're gonna move right along to new business, but we have no new business. There's none at this time, so now we move to board committee and liaison reports. Anyone starting someone?
No, he'll start.
Okay.
Rogers,
Mrs.
would you
Scaletti.
start, Ms. Rogers?
You could start.
Mr. Scaletti.
I gotta pull my notes up.
Mr. Scaletti.
It's got 10 pages.
Thank you.
Mine will be a little quicker. Facilities Committee, we met on April 25th. Sorry, I don't have my glasses either. It was Dr. Raj, Mrs. Rogers, Mr. Redfield, Mr. Pulaski, and myself. We went over all of our summer projects that we are going to be doing. We went over the health center. With the summer projects, we talked about roofing throughout the district that we're going to be doing on schools. I said earlier we talked about carpeting, and carpeting was one of the big ones. We did slate in the beginning that we were going to just be doing the high school, and then we came back and we saw that the elementary schools and the middle schools needed carpeting as well. So what we did was we went to the budget committee and explained to them what we need, and they okayed it, and now all the schools are going to be getting touched, elementary, middle school, and high school. There's going to be roofing projects done. A lot of them have been done already. The companies have been working on the weekends and during spring break, but there are going to be some during the summer hours when the kids are off that we're going to be doing. I believe it is Brunswick Acres is our big one that we're going to be doing during the summer. With that, we also talked about Facilitron. We talked about how the program actually works, because we've been basically haven't had Facilitron for about 2 years because of COVID, and now organizations are calling us back for Facilitron, so we revisited that about the fees, about the structure, about companies that are coming in who are the structure on how they pay and different things like that, and how they use the website and different things. We also talked about the healthcare center. We got an update from them. We got a timeline from them, when they're going to be done, and as far as when they're going to be at their 50%, 75%, and their 100%. So with that, I also want to thank Brian Redfield and his entire staff. They've been doing an outstanding job. They've been working a lot. And I do appreciate, as well as the board, we do appreciate all your work that you and your staff have done. And, I'm excited. It's all construction stuff, so I'm excited about summer projects coming up. So thank you. Any questions?
Joe, if I could just add real quick.
Yes.
We have, with the health center, we have got to thank Mr. Dowgan at the township office, who does permitting.
Yes.
And inspections. They have helped us out tremendously by providing us people, inspectors to come by and do electrical and plumbing on the drop of a dime, because our contractor at times wasn't filing, and there was a miscommunication with regards to the contractor working for the board. But once we got all that ironed out, a big shout out to Mr. Dowgan and his office at the township for working with us and being patient and understanding our work. And a lot of Brian Redfield working with that department to get inspectors out for electrical and plumbing. Just a wonderful relationship and a lot of appreciation for his office and what he's doing.
I also want to thank, like you said, I also want to thank the township. We do a lot with shared services between them, and they're always there for us, and as vice versa. So thank you again to the township of South Brunswick, but that's my report, Mr. President. If there are any other questions, I can answer them now. Thank you.
Seeing none, any other reports? Mrs. Rogers.
Okay, for the curriculum committee, we met and we discussed many, many items. First and foremost, we did settle on our committee goals. Those goals are posted on the minutes for the curriculum committee, so the board members can take a look at what our goals will be for curriculum. One of the items that that Dr. Disler did follow up on was the AAPI mandate from the state, which ensures that contributions, history, and heritage of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders are included in the NJSLS, the standards for New Jersey, and that's for social studies K through 12. If you're interested in looking at that memo, it is also included in the portal for the board members. Right now, the supervisors within social studies, supervisors, I should say, they're currently creating a document which will highlight the aspects of the AAPI mandate in the curriculum, and once we get that completed, or once they get that completed, excuse me, it will be shared with the committee and then also posted on the website for all board members to look at. Also, Dr. Disler described what the social studies stakeholder meeting, which was held last night, what the agenda was. We discussed that agenda at the committee meeting, and the stakeholder meeting was held last night. It was a committee consisting of parents, teachers, board members, and admin. We reviewed the changes to the K through 8 and the high school U.S. history social studies curriculum. This group, and we want to make this perfectly clear, is not a decision-making body. It's a group that provides perspectives and insight and feedback back on the social studies curriculum. The committee was there present yesterday, the three of us as well as the administration, and it turned out, I felt, it was a very, very good meeting. Dr. Disler and her team did a fabulous job. And we are going to be looking at turning it into a parent academy in the fall if there are any interested parents to be part of. It'll go in more depth what the social studies curriculum will be once the committee approves it, as well as the resources. She also, during that meeting, Dr. Disler went into the details about the 2020 health standards. She also shared, which we all discussed in depth, some main points. And it's key that parents receive clear and factual information. This is very important. The district is going to continue to address standards that are taking into consideration our community and our students. The district will continue to use our current district curriculum. This has been in place since 2020. And we're not adopting any outside sample curriculum. We currently send home letters and or the syllabi with all the health topics for all parents to review. We will continue to use these same communication measures to keep all families informed. If parents want to learn more about any curriculum, be it health standards, social studies, mathematics, etc., the first place parents should go is to the district website. So all board members, as well as members of the community, should direct parents to go to the district website first. It's listed under departments and then curriculum instruction if you're interested in understanding more about the curriculum. If, though, further clarification is needed, parents should speak with their teacher first. Get a clear understanding of what is happening in the classroom before taking any action. It's very important right now because there's a lot of misinformation out there, and board members, we have a responsibility to ensure that the public is advised of the proper information. Thank you.
Going to be updated, but we're not adding any new resources or lessons to the current curriculum. We are hitting the standards now. It's just rematching where the updates are. So I think it's important for our community to hear that. Thank you, Lisa, for
Yes.
reporting out.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for those very thorough reports. Are there any more reports? Seeing that there are none, we're going to move right along to action items. We need to approve the consent agenda of tonight's meeting, May 12th, 2022. Roll call, Mr. Pulowski, please.
I need a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry. Motion moved by Mr. Scaletti, seconded by Mr. Nathanson. All in favor? Oh, roll call. Sorry, I got you. I'm getting it. Roll call, please. Now it's roll call time.
Mrs. Deepa Karthik?
Yes.
Mr. Raja Krishna?
Yes.
Mr. Ray Keener?
Yes.
Mr. Mike Mitchell,
Yes.
Dr. Smith Raj,
Yes.
Mrs. Lisa Rogers,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph Scaletti,
Yes.
Mr. Barry Nathanson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. At this time, we have our second opportunity for public comment on any topic. Do we have any registered?
No registered, but I have two in the audience who are ready to roll. They're ready to
Okay.
talk.
Come right on along.
Good evening. My name is Julie Ferrara. I live in Kendall Park, member of South Brunswick for many years. I just want to say before I read this that this is my opinion and not the opinion of anyone, nor have I sought out any persons in drafting this opinion in district. Mr. Vice President Mitchell, board members, and Superintendent Fetter. I would like to address this upcoming health wellness clinic, which the board passed late last year. I'm requesting a rescinding vote so that the public can become better informed about this $12 million project. There has been little or no transparency to us, the public, about said health clinic. I have some questions regarding this health clinic. If Dr. Raj was part of the research and planning of this clinic, why did she not present a thorough report during the board meeting? Her lack of transparency makes me question why there has been so little said about it. I've been subbing around the district, and many of your district teachers are completely unaware of said health clinic. How is this going to benefit them if they know nothing about it? As a substitute teacher moving around the district, I can tell you emphatically that there are $12 million spent on staff only I see as a very extravagant use of taxpayer monies. Did anyone consider that we have been cutting paraprofessional staff to shore up district budgets, while new teachers in all parts of South Brunswick are having to do without that extra pair of hands needed? The Crossroads South Middle School is in dire need of upgrades and has been plagued with damaged rooms due to asbestos. Why are we not spending money on what would benefit most our teachers and students? Can Dr. Raj tell us why there was no feasibility study prior to the board vote? This expenditure in a time of inflation will probably balloon out to $15 million. Where is the rationale that this is a logical decision? Can Ms. Raj or any board member speak to this? If you ask the public or the students or teachers for that matter, they would probably think the money could be better used to improve overall quality of our schools and not the staff health needs. Therefore, I'm asking for the vote to be rescinded until such a time that the board can provide a detailed set of reports for us, the public. This will quell any concerns that this clinic is not just a sweet deal for someone other than the teachers. Our youngest students in the K-1 population are coming in with a whole set of behaviors due to COVID, and they really need paraprofessionals that used to be there but are no longer there. Could we not consider tabling this project in favor of restoring some sanity to our classrooms after 2 years off? Unless you can prove that this is a sound financial decision, I will be coming back for continued clarification that I'm asking for. I thank you in advance for your time and for your attention to this request and to providing the public with full, transparent information about this health wellness center.
Ms. Ferrara, so what I'd like to ask you to do, I'm going to give you some extra time.
Okay.
Since you made some false statements, I'd like you to provide evidence of your statements. Please provide us with evidence of the asbestos at South.
Well, I'm going back a few years, but it had been...
No. You just made a claim and told the public there's asbestos at South. That's an irresponsible false claim. Please provide evidence
Well,
now.
I think you could inquire with the facilities
I don't have
committee,
to.
or I
I
can
am part
inquire
of the
with the
facilities
township
committee.
and find out if there was really any asbestos, because I worked in that building for many years.
And you
there
have
had
asbestos
been...
from the building? Are you
No,
saying
but
that
it-
you've
but-
developed some
but
form of
I
asbestos?
spoke to people that worked there, and they said there
Who
was
did you speak to?
remediating asbestos
Who
in
did you speak to?
in certain rooms
Who
on the first
did
floor of the
you
district.
speak to? You can't make claims. Well, you can, because it's public comment.
I'm
You can go
just
up there and lie all you want.
Okay, it's a mild claim,
But-
sir. I rescind that. It's a mild claim.
It's a
When
what
I
claim?
worked there, I was told they were remediating
It's your own
asbestos.
claim. It's your claim.
It's my claim. So I
You
take,
have
I'm
tested the
just
school
saying,
for
it's,
asbestos?
I said this is my opinion and what I have known.
You have an opinion that a school has asbestos and felt the responsible thing is to come to a board meeting with nothing at all of proof, evidence, or anything
Are
of the
you
kind.
aware that there has been
and
asbestos
say,
in
yes,
any
there's no
building in the
asbestos there.
district, sir?
I just said there's none. But
Really?
you came to claim.
I think we should go back and take a look at that.
Wait, second. What is the sweet deal for teachers that you've just
I'm not saying
made a
sweet
claim?
deal for teachers,
There's
sir.
no sweet deal for teachers.
I'm saying there must be something here that we are not, as the public, are not being made aware, because this happened in the dark of night at the end of last year
Can
with
you
little or
explain what
no
dark of night means?
transparency.
What does dark of night mean?
Well, we didn't hear anything about it, and it was voted on. We didn't hear anything
So
about this.
I would advise, go back to the board meetings and watch them. The ones that you say happened in the dark of night, the ones that you say
Were there
did not
fi-
talk about this.
Were there
Just go watch
feasibilities,
them.
were there feasibilities?
Just go watch them.
Were there feasibility studies
Yes,
done
many,
prior?
and you can feel free to read the entire report. All yours. Asking a question is one thing. Making purposeful false claim for political purposes is another. And I will set up
I
here,
just think that the
as
public
the
deserves
superintendent
to
of
know
schools,
why we are.
and I will say, when a person comes to the mic for her own personal political reasons.
This is not a political thing.
To
This is my.
scare the community with false claims of my own, that's a problem. So I'm here telling you that that is unacceptable behavior. But the good news for you is you're allowed to get up there and have unacceptable behavior.
Right.
So you've demonstrated that, and that's okay. You're allowed to.
Yes.
But I am also responsible for making sure our public does not hear
Okay, but
false claims
when I
and see
asked
that they're not,
what
and
this is
believe that they're
about,
true.
when
Your
I-
time is up, ma'am. Thank you.
Can I ask you a question?
No. Absolutely.
Let's start over. My name is Sharon Ferraro. I lived in the community for a very long time, lived in Monmouth Walk for 29 years. In those 29 years, we've had a lot of buses come through Monmouth Walk. That's not the issue. The issue is we never had the full-size buses come on the court. That's the issue.
Sharon, say that again, the full size?
The full-size buses, not the,
Right, not the smaller ones?
right.
Come
That-
through
That's
where?
not, the handicap buses are not an issue. So let's understand that. The handicap buses are not the issue. They need to come on the court. They need to go door to door. They need to slow down, but they need to go door to door, okay? These are the first student buses. Let's get that right there. So I'm walking my dog because the sidewalks, if you've ever been to Monmouth Walk, are horrifying on the court. So you have to kind of walk in the road. And I was very close to the curb so the dog could be on the grass. And the first student bus came flying around and almost ran me over. I was like, wow, this is insane. Wait a minute, what are they doing on the court? Because we've never had the full-size buses on the court in 29 years. So that's a problem. I do have diagrams of the court. I took pictures. I did not blow them up. I just
do you wanna
printed
submit
them.
them?
Yeah, I just
Sure.
printed them on the regular paper because I wasn't
It's okay.
using all my picture paper. So the problem is, I did call transportation and I did ask them, why are the buses on the court, the full-size buses? And she said, I want them there. Whoa. First of all, they're coming in the main entrance. They're catty-cornering themselves so nobody can pass, driving around and then going back out and having a hard time making the right. When they get to the next stop sign to make a right, I was walking the dog on camera this time and the bus fishtailed. Now we know we have too much speed. They need to slow down. They need to be off the court. It's not safe. We've never had, all the kids on the full-size buses are being picked up on the corner of Kara and Jill, or Kara and Heather, Kara and Dawn, whatever. We've never had them, they're not picking up kids on the court,
So, Sharon,
except for the preschool.
So, helpful. So we'll look into this?
because it really needs to change before someone gets hurt, like me. I choose life. But please, thank you. I do hope you do look into this, and I appreciate it.
So Mr. Pulowski is the business administrator. He oversees the transportation department. He just informed me he's going to get back in touch.
I'll be in touch with you.
And if you could make sure, do we have your contact?
I did not put my phone number down. If you want, I can come over there.
If you could.
I think you reached out to
But let her just put it
Jill.
out here, too.
Yeah, and Jill told me she wants them there,
Okay.
okay?
I'll
That's
get-
not working for me. And
Okay.
it's mostly the first student buses anyway. They want to come in really fast. We did have a police officer for the high school bus, and he slowed them down. We can't get anyone out there now to do the, the elementary school, the second bus.
So what we'll do.
We'll be in touch.
We'll look into it, and then you'll hear from Mr. Pulowski shortly.
No
So we
problem.
can
Do you
get
want
back
my
to you on
phone
this.
number? I'll give
No,
you.
He
you
has it from,
contacted,
he
I
has it
think
from
you
Ms.
spoke with
Ottingham.
Marcia in my office.
Yes.
Yep, I have your number.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
no
I'll be
problem.
in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Sorry, did she say Monmouth Walk?
Yes.
Any more comments before we move on?
I got it under control. I got it all under control.
There being none, we're going to close this portion and entertain a motion to adjourn. Yeah, I read that after or before? I mean,
We can't adjourn, we have to move to.
gotcha. Thank you. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Township of South Brunswick hereby moves into an executive session in accordance with Sunshine Law, Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of 1975, NJSA 10-4-6 through 10-4-21, to discuss the following: personnel. Be it further resolved that the discussion conducted in executive session can be disclosed to the public at such time as the matters have been resolved. Formal action may be taken at any meeting. Good night.
I'll make a motion to adjourn to go to executive. Second.
A motion by Mr. Nathan, seconded by Mr. Scaletti. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Okay, meeting is closed. Good night, South Brunswick.